What are we doing? We are building cages in swamps and calling it policy. We are fencing in families beneath the drowning weight of Spanish moss and razor wire and telling ourselves it's justice. We're constructing holding pens for human beings under the cruel cover of patriotism while gators circle and cameras roll. The fascists of the past hid their sins behind silence. Their camps were whispered about, and their horrors only fully known when the smoke had settled and the bodies were counted. But us, we're not hiding a damn thing. We're posting on Instagram. We're selling souvenir t-shirts. We're lining up outside the gates of hell in flag print board shorts, grinning for Facebook likes. We've turned suffering into spectacle. And people will die there. Not in metaphor, not in poetic exaggeration. They will die alone and terrified in the humidity of a man-made hell. They will die because we forgot how to feel compassion. And that is not opinion, that is mathematical certainty. And some of them will be American citizens, some will have protected status, some will be children, and some will be the ones that picked our crops and cooked our food and built our homes, protected under laws written in blood and memory. And they will die anyway because our paperwork was sloppy or our policy was cruel, or because someone somewhere decided their life didn't matter as much as a re-election campaign. But who has the time for the rule of law or the nuance of common sense when you've got to make sure Cletus feels like a patriot in his American by the Grace of God t-shirt stitched together by 8-year-olds in China and sold at Walmart? We are not drifting toward authoritarianism. We are building it brick by brick, and we're doing it with full-color banners, country music, and little red hats made in sweatshops. And so the state of the union is this. We are losing our soul and pretending it's progress. Give me the migrant worker. Give me the woman who crossed the border to feed her children, who works 3 jobs and sends money home, who doesn't take your job because you won't do one. I've worked beside her and I've worked beside Cletus, and Cletus needs 22 cigarette breaks a shift. His knees act up when it's over 85 degrees, and he insists that his doctor says he can't stand longer than 30 minutes without a lawn chair and a cold Dr. Pepper, and he's the loudest one. And if you're cheering this on, if you're hooting and hollering about migrants being eaten by alligators in a Florida wetland gulag, your only real contribution is as a mouthpiece for corporate fascism. You're not defending freedom. You're defending Stephen Miller. And Stephen Miller is not a controversial conservative. He is in both function and ideology a Nazi in modern drag. And that is not a slur. It is an indictment based on his own words, writings, and policies. This is the man that engineered family separation at the border, and not as a last resort, but as a deterrent, a punishment, a calculated cruelty. He's praised far-right European nationalists and used his position inside the White House to push white nationalist talking points directly into DHS policy. He fed xenophobia into the system like coal into a furnace, not caring what burned, only that it kept burning. And if you don't believe me, read the SPLC's archive on his own emails to Breitbart. He cites white nationalist websites, rails against immigration, and recommends racist literature as policy inspiration. And for the record, yes, he's Jewish. And yes, he's a Zionist. And yes, history has room for that contradiction. You see, fascism isn't picky about the hands that feed it, so long as the boot lands where it's aimed. And when nationalism becomes ethnic supremacy, the difference between Zionism and Nazism is only where the barrel's pointed. So to the do your own research crowd, what the hell were you researching? Because Stephen Miller and Peter Navarro slid right past you. And if you'd have told me 15 years ago that Stephen fucking Miller would be writing American policy, I would have wept or walked into the goddamn ocean. His history of white nationalism and racist rhetoric is well documented, published in public. ICE behaving like the Gestapo is not an accident. It is the design. He studied Goebbels. He romanticized control. He gets off on the optics of this shit. You are not witnessing the echoes of history. You are watching its reanimation. And if Stephen Miller reads this, he'll smile. Not out of vanity, but out of victory. Because the optics of cruelty are the point. Because control is the end game. Because power over the powerless makes him feel divine. And he's not ashamed of it. He's proud of it, I promise you. And through all of this, your children are dying from flooding in Texas, from heat in Arizona, from poverty in West Virginia, from fentanyl in Ohio. Dying so some son of a bitch can get another tax break on putting his 4th house in a trust fund. They tell you not to make it partisan when Texas drowns or when wildfires take whole families out west. Don't politicize the tragedy, they say. But it's not partisan, it's human. And if you're not moved by it, if you don't weep for these people, It's not because you're a Republican, it's because you're morally hollow. You are spiritually bankrupt because empathy left your body the moment Fox News told you it was weakness. And I say lack of moral fiber because I like the rhythm of the phrase, but what I mean is devoid of it. And if you think I'm wrong, look your child in the eye and put a dollar amount on them. What are they worth in American currency? And you can't, but this administration has, Congress has, and it's just under $109,000. Not enough to buy a house, not enough for a lifetime of health care, just enough to justify a press release on budget reform. They've penciled it out in a margin somewhere next to campaign donations and fossil fuel subsidies. And since you can't put a price on your own, understand that mine are just as priceless to me. And that's the universal currency. It's the exchange rate of human decency. They've convinced you that you matter to them, and you do until you don't. Until your insurance lapses, until your job is automated, until your house floods, or your kid overdoses. Then you are not a voter, you are a statistic. And if you can't see that you've been discarded, that they don't care about you anymore, then you are either deliberately blind or quietly complicit. Pick your poison. And I say this to every single soul still wading through this toxic sewage of faux conservatism. Whether I know you or love you or once thought you were better than you are either a fool or a Pharisee. And if you choose this path, this bile-soaked nationalism, then you have made your choice. You've nailed your flag to the mast of cruelty, and don't pretend it's about policy, because we can argue policy. We can argue over tax rates and the Constitution. That's the democratic process. But the availability of civil liberties and human rights are never up for debate. That is not conservative versus liberal. That is human versus inhuman. And if you think those rights only apply to people that look like you, speak your language, or share your religion, then the devil waits for you and he delights in it. You are not the hero of this story. You are the fucking guardrail on the road to hell, and the rest of us are just trying to slow the car down before we lose everything and everyone we love. Defiance till death.